It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Pharrell Williams is here and Ben Allen can take a break. What is up and welcome to 3 in the Key. I'm your host, Ben Pharrell Allen. Happy Halloween, everyone. Today we're going to get you up to date on a little bit of the KU football scope for the rest of the season with Shane Jackson of the University of Daly Kansan, and Tim Cornell and Josh Kurelac will swing by to debate NBA basketball and a little bit of the World Series wrap-up. But before we get you all up to that, let's get you up to date on what you missed. Breaking news out of 3 in the Key, the Kansas basketball team will be without their backup point guard Connor Frankamp. Frankamp, as of an hour ago, elected to transfer from the University of Kansas. The transfer comes as a surprise to many as the Jayhawks play their first game Monday against Washburn. According to reports, Frankamp felt buried behind a few players on the team and will be moving on good terms to pursue a bigger role with another team. The NBA is now in full effect, and last night was one of the most important games ever, to quote LeBron James. The Cavaliers brought in their home king last night, and the game did not go as well as planned. The Cavs kicked off last night playing the New York Knicks without my girl Taylor Swift, and it was a tight first half with the score being almost knotted up at 44-42 in the first half. The second half, not much better for the Cavs, as they let the depleted Knicks squad score 53 in the second half. The story of the game would go, as you imagine, would be LeBron James, who definitely had some jitters in his first home game last night, as he led the team in minutes with 43, but only made 5 shots. The bench also didn't contribute much, as Matthew Dellavedova and Tristan Thompson were the only two to score. Kevin Love did his part and had 19 points and 14 rebounds in his first game back with the new look Cavs, but the Knicks were able to hold on to the new Cavs 95-90. Speaking of the NBA, the Kevin Durantless Thunder took another blow last night against the Los Angeles Clippers. The Clippers won the game 93-90, but the Thunder lost more than just the game. Russell Westbrook, the all-star point guard who is expected to pick up more of the slack while Durant is out, broke his hand and will be out 4 to 5 weeks, leaving the Thunder even more depleted than they were before. The Thunder were forced to finish out the game with only 8 active players, and Oklahoma City is planning to apply for the infrequently requested NBA Hardship Exemption Act, which allows for a team with 4 or more players to apply to add another player to their roster. While Westbrook is out, Sebastian Telfair is expected to step into the starting lineup. We had some NFL football last night as Cam Newton and the Panthers took on Drew Brees and the uprising Saints. Not a lot of scoring early until Mark Ingram banged his way into the end zone for the first score of the game with 2 minutes to go. With 6 seconds left now, Jimmy Graham had his first touchdown to prove his health in the game, making the score 14-0 at the half. Second half, the Saints pulled ahead with another 2 touchdowns while the Panthers could only muster up 1 rushing touchdown from Cam Newton and a field goal in the fourth quarter to make the final score of this one 28-10. The Saints even up their record 4-4 now, and the Panthers are now 3-5-1. The AP College basketball rankings have been released. The Kansas Jayhawks came in at number 5 on the list, while the Kentucky Wildcats took in the most first-place votes as they led the NCAA to be the first-ranked team ahead of Arizona and Wisconsin. Arizona may be number 2 from total votes, but Wisconsin actually received more first-place votes. Wichita State, which is number 11, will be the other Kansas school represented, and Texas and Iowa State and Oklahoma also came in the top 20 to round out the Big 12. Now, it's time for your fantasy tip of the week. It's Halloween, so I'm going to scare you out of starting a few players this week. On my list of guys not to start this week include Vincent Jackson, who is playing a stingy home Cleveland Browns secondary, Percy Harvin, who's got a bad matchup against the Chiefs, and whatever you do, don't start the injured Tony Romo, who is going to be going against a hyper-blitzing Cardinals defense. That's all I got for tips and all I got for what you missed, but when we return, the KU football team is off their bye week, so that means Shane Jackson is going to be sitting down with me to talk KU football. We'll be right back.
Where you go to college makes a statement about you. This place will become a part of you, your identity for life. The University of Kansas, a great place to be you.
Welcome back to 3 in the Key. Now joining me is Shane Jackson, the football writer for the University Daily Kansan. Shane, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good.
I have to ask you, it's Halloween. Do you want some candy?
I think I'm good.
No jelly beans?
Yeah, I have to, prepare my voice for the debate.
True, that's true. I don't blame you on that note. Shane, obviously you've been around the KU football team arguably more than any other student writer of any sorts so far this year. And you've seen a lot of ups, and when I mean ups, I mean no ups, except for just Charlie getting fired. But a lot of downs. They're coming in this week against Baylor. They are coming off the bye week, and they are 35.5-point underdogs against Baylor. What can we really expect against Baylor this week?
Well, the optimistic thing to say is they now have 2 weeks to prepare for Baylor, which if you want to have 2 weeks for anybody, you want it to be for Baylor. They're going to need the whole 2 weeks, but on the flip side, Baylor also has had 2 weeks, and they're coming off a loss against West Virginia. I don't think they're wanting to lose 2 in a row.
So they're going to be angry coming out there.
Yeah, especially not to Kansas. So I don't know how much you can expect. I'd like to see if the offense is going to make strides with the 2 weeks off, because it is interesting. With Clint Bowen being named the interim head coach, they haven't really had a whole lot of time to just settle down and wind down and actually focus on football. So it really is going to be interesting with 2 weeks off what they can do with that.
Are they going to be able to beat this spread? Are they going to be able to crunch into this 35.5-point lead? Or is there any chance they win? Any chance at all?
There's no chance they win.
Okay.
But
at least we're being honest.
Yeah, I just had the show with the Kansan football show before this, and I said that I believe it's going to be a little over 35 points. I think Baylor is going to beat them by about 38 points. I think because Baylor's going to be up by so much, they're going to use some of the reserves that they could cover that spread. But at the same time, I don't really know, because this offense is still the second team might be better than the Kansas first team.
There's 6. I mean, that's 6 touchdowns. That's a 6-touchdown win. So that's not good. But one of the guys who's gone out there and obviously has really tried his best, and it's been evident from the get-go, has been Clint Bowen. Bowen stepped into a really tough situation, and he's done a pretty fair job for a guy who basically came in with nothing to work with. What do you think about Bowen's job so far? I
really like what Bowen's done. He's brought energy to this team. I like that he's been running out with the team, something that Charlie Weiss did not do for obvious reasons. Yeah. But I just like the energy this team has, and I really thought that was kind of overrated when Bowen was initially hired. I didn't think energy was going to make that big of a difference. But I'm glad I was wrong, because KU really has looked like a different team, although they still don't have the talent to back it up with teams like in the Big 12 that they're facing every week. But I really like the energy of this team, and Bowen is the main reason for that.
Speaking of energy, one of the guys who's had more energy than anyone else, it seems like, is the new quarterback, Michael Cummings. What do you think about Cummings for this year as far as going into next year and building an opportunity to actually be the starting quarterback next year?
Yeah, it's interesting. A couple weeks ago, we talked about it on the show, and I said I thought Kozart should still start. I didn't agree with the third straight year having a backup quarterback come in, because I thought now you're not giving the starter any comfortable, being comfortable at all in the year. But I was glad I was wrong with that as well, because Cummings has clearly been the best quarterback. An interesting stat is he has almost 100 yards less than Kozart, but in just 2 starts, whereas Kozart had 5 starts.
Significantly different.
So, and I really like that he makes a deep ball threat, and he really makes defenses respect at least the passing game a little bit, and where they're able to mix in with the running game with DeAndre Mann and Corey Avery.
Well, what I've noticed with him is he's not afraid to take a hit. And I feel like that's kind of been a sign of what Bowen is kind of, he's trying to get in these guys. You've got to be out there, and you've got to be tough. Because we're not going to be the more athletic team out there. We're not going to be the better team. And I think that's something that Bowen has going for him, going into the possibility of next year, him having a job with the team. What do you think really is what can we expect to see from the coaching opportunities next year for Bowen? Do we see him as possibly the guy who will be the replacement, the full-time replacement?
I think so. I don't know if I really want that to be the case, because I like Clint Bowen so much that I don't know if I want to see him get fired a few years down the road. True. I think, realistically, the best situation for him is to be the next guy for the job. Not necessarily this job, but a few years down the road when the new guy comes in and gets fired, then Clint Bowen, because he is still relatively young and he's still new to this offense. He doesn't understand the offensive game as well as most coaches do that you want, and especially in a head coach position.
Certainly.
But I like Bowen so much and his energy that I think I would like him back to the defense coordinator. But I think this is his job. I think they are going to give it to him, because he really does bleed crimson and blue. He brings a lot of energy to this team. It still scares me, because I really don't want to see him get fired a couple years in a row, because this team is going to be pretty bad next year. They're losing a lot of seniors, which is hard to imagine them being worse. But this team just doesn't have the talent next year.
Is there any chance that he moves back into a defensive coordinator position?
I think he would if they brought in somebody from outside, like a Scott Frost from Oregon. Yeah. That I think Clint Bowen he loves KU so much that he would move down to defense coordinator. Although I think he would rather be the head coach, because this is like his dream job.
Certainly.
But I still think you could have that dream job 4 or 5 years down the road.
Now, you predicted the team would be 2-10 this year. How confident are you in that pick so far?
I am pretty confident. It scares me a little bit with Iowa State coming up, because they are worse than I expected, and I also expected Charlie Weiss to be the head coach throughout the year. I think Charlie Weiss and Montel Cozart made a huge difference on this team because I thought you really had bad leadership. And now with Bowen, we've talked about his energy that he brings, and Cummings is clearly a better quarterback. It does scare me a little bit because Iowa State you could beat them.
Well, it's a good day to be scared. It's Halloween. And coming up, we're actually going to have Squints and we're going to have Drew Carey coming to sit down with us and debate against you. So hopefully you're ready.
I'm going to win.
Hopefully you guys are ready at home too. We'll be right back. Welcome back to 3 in the Key. It is time for debate, guys. Now joining me is Drew Carey, Squints, and Shane, who just didn't dress up. So, and you can argue Tim didn't dress up either, but it
I worked
plays
on
a
this.
part.
Built in. My whole life.
Tim, I really wanted to say during the beginning that I was hoping I could get you to say the points don't matter, but I was really worried that I might be infringing on a little bit of the rights of a show of Whose Line Is It Anyway. So
the points are not as important.
The points aren't as important is what we're going to say today. And with that, guys, let's go ahead and jump into question number 1 here. World Series is over, and we all know that the Giants won. They were the heavily favored team from the fact that they didn't get any at all media coverage from anywhere at all, if you guys didn't notice that at all. No media coverage whatsoever. It's all pro Royals. But that's all over with now. My question for you guys is, did the better team actually win?
I'll go first. I definitely think the better team win. And I don't say definitely because it was not even close. It was really close. The pitching might even be a little bit towards the Royals' favor, but of course, Bumgarner kind of ruined that a little bit. But I think the Giants just had a little bit more consistent hitting, and that made the difference because it was really close. Even though the series saw a few games that were total blowouts, the games that really mattered were really close.
We'll go round table with this. You asked me, did the better team win? Did the better complete team win the World Series? Probably not. The San Francisco Giants were good. Obviously, they got there not by accident. But Madison Bumgarner, and I don't want to take away from what we may talk about later, but he pitched 21 innings as a starter, and the rest of the starting staff for the Giants pitched 17 and a half. You take away Madison Bumgarner and replace him with maybe a not as good but still solid starting pitcher, I think the Royals win that series in 6 games. I mean, because when he was not in there pitching, the starting pitching and then some of the bullpen for the Giants just looked lost.
But what team does he play for? He plays for the Giants. You can't take him away from the team. He's on the Giants. So yeah, the better team won because he is on the Giants. The Royals were really close. The Giants had the best pitcher, and the Royals were 90 feet away from tying that. The Giants accomplished something that hasn't been done since the 40s with the Cardinals, who were winning it 3 and 5 years. And the Giants are just really underrated as a team. Their bullpen was not as pronounced or as promoted as the Royals bullpen, and it was just as good. So yes, I agree. I think the Giants are the better team, and they won it.
All right, guys. Well, the first point is going to be going to Shane, but we get an extra bonus point here going for Squints, because that outfit, it's working right now for you, buddy. It's working for you. So both of you guys now 1-1. Tim, Mr. Carey, you're a little bit behind here already.
The points don't matter.
The points don't matter, though, apparently, as you would say. Now on to question number 2. We just hinted at it a little bit. Madison Bumgarner was a little bit of a god, you could almost say, in the World Series. Guys, this is really a tough thing to say about a guy who's only 25 years old. But did he make a Hall of Fame case just from one series here?
Well, it wasn't really just one series. It was the whole postseason, and really his whole career. He's been incredible. And I think in our lifetimes, we will see the Royals make the World Series, maybe even win it. But I don't think we'll ever see a pitching performance like we just did. It was incredible.
No, I mean, I think, yeah, he's young and he's only 25, but if that's not a good case to make your claim to be a Hall of Famer, then I'm not sure what else he needs to do. I mean, he's got one of the lowest, if not the lowest, World Series ERA for his entire career, and he single-handedly controlled the Royals lineup for, more than 2 games plus if you want to look at the innings that he pitched. So, I mean, to me, he single-handedly just took the Giants and drugged them across the finish line and won the World Series for them with a little help. But he certainly, I mean, that's Hall of Fame written all over it for me.
Yeah, it's hard to make a case for somebody in the Hall of Fame at the age of 25 because he's still got a whole lot to accomplish. But you're right, he did an amazing job, something we hadn't seen since 2001 with Randy Johnson. And Randy Johnson was asked to get 3 outs in a relief appearance. Bumgarner was asked to get 15,
Yeah,
and he retired 14 straight batters after pitching 117 pitches just 2 days before. It was ridiculous. I did not see that coming. I actually thought the Royals had a really good chance to get going off of Madison in the early going. It was just unfortunate that it was the bottom of the order. I mean, you saw Infante lead off with a single, and it was just unfortunate that, you know, the bottom of the order was the one that got to him early because he wasn't in the zone quite early, and then he got a little confidence in him. He started, going really hard.
The only thing that might hold him out of the Hall of Fame is the Hall of Fame is for human baseball players, and Madison Bumgarner is not.
Wow, that's a great point there. It's a great point there. But none of you said anything different from the other one. None of you get points. No points this time. You're all losers this time.
Fair enough.
Question 3. In case you missed it, LeBron James, he's back in Cleveland. And some people were really excited about it. Great open last night if you got to watch the game. My question for you guys, are they really, 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 really good? Really, really good. Really, really, really good.
They're definitely really, really good. They did not play even good with no reallys last night, though. But I think the pressure going into that game last night was just too much for LeBron. We've seen LeBron handle pressure before. We know he can do it. I think it was just too much. I kind of wish the Cavs had played their first game on the road so they wouldn't have to deal with that home crowd. Because sometimes, home crowd is almost always universally good, but I think that was just a little bit too much pressure. They played absolutely awful last night, but I don't think it's going to reflect them the rest of the season at all.
Well, first of all, I want to point out to Ben, I don't know, if we all agree, that just means the question's bad. Doesn't he get a negative?
Can we put -1?
But yeah, I agree. The Cavs are going to be really good this year. I mean, you got Kevin Love, Irving, and LeBron James on the same team, which might be better than the big three that was in Miami because Dwayne Wade was reaching towards the end with his injuries, and Chris Bosh was a bit overrated at the time. Now I think he's going to play a much bigger role. But yeah, I think the Cavs are going to be really good. You did not get to see that last night, obviously. And I agree with you, Tim, I wish they would have started on the road because maybe there was a lot of pressure for his first game back in a Cleveland uniform, a team or a city that had burned your jersey 4 years prior. So it was just a lot of pressure to really, make everybody forget all about that with one game, and he wasn't able to do it. And I just think it was too much pressure for him.
Right. I don't think it's time to sell the franchise and get rid of Cleveland, blow it up, after one game. But I will say this: if the Cavaliers are going to be successful this season, I said it when LeBron announced that he was going to Cleveland. His teammates have got to step up. I know they got help. They got Kevin Love, Kyrie Irving. There's a lot of other role players on there that fit well. And LeBron necessarily didn't have a great game last night. But for them to have success in the future, LeBron's good, great. You can lean on him all you want, but he's only going to go, and that team is only going to go as far as some of his supporting cast.
But let's keep in mind they are in the East, which is very
That
weak
helps.
for
Right.
anybody who knows NBA. It's really weak,
Yeah.
and I think it's going to be a really good year for them.
I think we're on the cusp of seeing maybe the best offense in NBA history as well.
Wow.
That's a bold statement.
Yeah, well, just pure statistic
Yeah.
wise, like offensive rating and stuff. And no team in the past 10 years has had a defense, other than I think the Lakers with Kobe, had a defense worse than ranked top 10. But they could be 20th best defense, but I think their offense will be so good that it won't really matter.
We almost gave the point to Shane there, but Shane just that hurt. That dug into me deep. That really, really hurts. I hope you guys know I'm coming on the show soon. There's going to be someone else
wanna be
hosting,
on.
and I will actually be debating against you guys, and I will
gonna
make
get
you
0.
all look silly. As for now, though, the point goes to the really bold statement made by Mr. Tim Cornell. You're on the board here, buddy. Yes. Going into the fourth question, a follow-up from where we just were. It's obviously really early in the NBA season, but again, we like to make bold predictions here. Guys, who's going to be in the championship game, and who's going to win it?
Oh man, it's so hard. I've gone back and forth, and I'm.
You want
to
to say Clippers so bad.
I do want to say Clippers so bad because
Say it.
that's my team, but I don't want to count out the Thunder, even though they might even struggle to make the playoffs because of their injury problems. I'm actually going to go
strong pick.
Spurs. I'm going to go Spurs, Cavs.
All right. Well, being the avid NBA follower that I am, I hope you catch the hint of sarcasm in that. I know enough to be dangerous, as I said before the show. It's hard to pick against LeBron James. I think the Cavs will figure it out. I don't think you're going to see what they did last night over and over in the regular season and throughout the playoffs. So I got the Cavs in the East. And coming out of the West, you won't say it, so I will for you. I think the Clippers have enough to finally get there this year. The Spurs, I feel like they may be dealing with some, and I know it'll be tough with Greg Popovich as head coach, but maybe they're already satisfied. They got their title. Tim Duncan is, he's up there, 38 years old. They're not getting any younger, so I feel like the Clippers will finally have enough to get over that hump.
I was going to say the Cavs too, but I don't want to agree with you guys. I'm going to go with the next best team.
But I thought that was the whole point.
I'm going to go with the next best team. I think it is the Bulls. I think it's just hard to imagine LeBron James making his 5th straight NBA Finals appearance. As good as he is and as weak as that East is, the Bulls are still a really good team. They would be competitive in the West as well. So I think they are the most complete team, and they're going to make it to the NBA Finals. I think they're going to face the Thunder because I think when the Thunder come back with the injuries, they're going to be a dangerous 7 or 8 seed where they might play your Clippers at the 2. And imagine that in your first-round matchup. I think if the Thunder are healthy with their players back, they're going to be a tough team to beat, even if they are a 7-8 seed.
I believe the Bulls and Cavs play each other tonight, so that could be a fun early season matchup.
Tim Cornell dropping some knowledge on you, but the point is going to Shane. We are now 2-1-1. As we just broke the news here on 3 in the Key, as we always like to break news, Connor Frankamp, he's gone. He's leaving the University of Kansas to pursue another career somewhere else. Guys, is it a big deal or not that we're losing the 3-point shooting off the bench for this year?
Someone else go first.
All right, well, I'll go first. Is it a big deal? I mean, it's not huge. I think this Kansas team, it tells you kind of what Bill Self's program is becoming here at Kansas. If you can just do, one thing, if you can not do more than just contribute offensively, or if you're just a lockdown defender, you're probably not going to see a whole lot of the floor. Now, and especially in the day of college basketball now, with all these freak athletes and everybody is more mature, in my opinion, and everyone's in such a hurry to get to the NBA. Connor Frankamp necessarily didn't really give KU a whole lot other than outside shooting.
Yeah, I think Connor's a good player, and I was really looking forward to the leap I think he was going to make this year, but I don't think it's really going to hurt the team that much. I think he's going to contribute a lot more on wherever he decides to go, and he'll probably be a lot better, and he'll be happier. I was extremely surprised by it, don't get me wrong, but I think it's probably the right choice all around.
Well, not to keep critiquing your questions, Ben, but if your question is losing a 3-point specialist, then no, you're not worried because you still got guys like Brandon Green and Svi who are really good 3-point shooters.
We need to take a point away from him. That's where we're
going
to
do that.
If we are worried about losing depth, especially at an important position, because KU has lacked at the 1. If that's been the weakness in the last few years, is at the point guard position, and you expected Frankamp to take roles, and you wanted Mason to move over to the 2 a little bit more. Now you're looking at Graham and Mason more at the 1. So it does scare me that there's not as much depth at the most important position, in my opinion, if KU wants to make a national championship run. Look at college basketball. The good teams are dominated by great point guards, and KU hasn't had that in a while.
Yeah, but I don't think, to answer that, I don't think Connor Frankamp is necessarily a great point guard or somebody who's going to make a big difference. So, I think they'll be fine without him.
And Bill Self has said that he wants to play Selden at the 1. So now you have Selden, Frank Mason, and Devontae Graham. So I really don't think you lose depth.
I thought it still was a point guard by committee type of thing with the Kansas Jayhawks with Graham. Depending on the matchup, I thought it was going to be Graham, Mason, or Frankamp. At the 1, I thought Selden was going to be more at the 2. Of course, towards the end of the year, if Oubre becomes of his own, I expect Selden to move over more to the 1 as well.
Squints, you're getting a point here. But we're not done quite yet, guys, because we've got a little extra time here. So we're going to throw in a 6th question for you. Gatorade was recently found to be better for you than Powerade. My question for you guys is it in you?
Heck, I love Gatorade. I drink Gatorade as much as I can. Powerade is just, it's kind of like the ugly stepsister of the sports drinks, to be honest. And, if you're not drinking Gatorade, then I'm not really sure what you want to do with your performance, in the future.
I think until either of those companies start throwing money at me, I'm not going to pick either. What a bold, advertising campaign.
Drew's turning down the sponsorship.
People. You're all about the money today, huh?
I'm going to go with Gatorade as well. I honestly don't drink a whole lot of Powerade. And I'm going to drink a Gatorade right after this show when I'm eating my crunchy chicken turtle up like I do every Friday. So, yeah, definitely Gatorade over Powerade.
Well, someone's definitely going for the sponsorship there. But my question for you guys is going to be one final point here for you guys, because I forgot to ask on the last one. How awkward is it going to be and this is going to add into the point we just had here, How awkward is it going to be for Connor Frankamp living in the dorms, or not the dorms, but living in the Jayhawk Towers the rest of the semester? This will be an added point with this one.
Do you want to take this?
Could be kind of weird, I guess. I don't know. I think it'll be fine.
I think
He's not leaving on bad terms.
right. It was the best decision for probably all parties involved. Will it be awkward for him to watch the guys who he's worked with for years to be out there on the court and he's not? Probably, but I think he's got one thing on his mind, and that's what's in the best interest for me and my career for the next 2-3 years of college basketball. So I think everybody is probably be understanding. I don't see it being a problem.
Well, I'm not a basketball player, but my freshman year I was at Emporia State, and I decided to transfer to KU, and it was a bit awkward when I lived in the freshman dorms because people were saying, you're just leaving. And a lot of my friends are getting an apartment complex, and they're all just making fun of me because I'm leaving.
The Hornets
going to
weren't happy
KU.
with it.
Yeah, and so it was a bit awkward for me. I'm not even a basketball player, so I can't imagine what Frankamp's dealing with because you're right. He has practiced with these guys. He's basically lived with these guys. He's been their brother. A lot better connection than I had with some of my friends at Emporia. So I have to think it's going to be a bit awkward for him. My question is he going to go to the games? Is he going to watch in the student section?
Probably not. I don't think so.
I think he'll probably stay home, but we could see a surprise appearance if it's a big game.
If it's a big game, yeah.
If the NCAA tournament later, once he's moved on somewhere else, if he comes back, I wouldn't be surprised to see like a Roy Williams type appearance.
If you can get Aaron Rodgers to come, why can't you get Frankamp, who
Exactly.
goes to KU?
You just compared him to Roy Williams.
I can see Frankamp sitting there behind the bench with like a black shirt and a sticker of KU because that's what most
He played here for 1 year. I don't think so.
He may be the master of the Sandlot, but today he is the master of debate. Squints, Mr. Josh Kurelac, you win today 1-3-2. Guys, thanks so much for coming on today. Thank you for always being here, and we hope to have you on another time, guys. That's all we have here for 3 in the Key. Make sure you follow us at 3 in the Key. And I hope that you guys have a very happy and safe Halloween. Thanks for watching, guys.